Hey, what's up guys? John here. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, flew out to China to meet with Xi Jinping to discuss a climate partnership.
Governor Gavin Newsom has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping this morning in Beijing.
It is part of his trip to promote climate cooperation between California and China.
What's your biggest takeaway from today's meeting with President Xi?
Well, I thought we accelerated our progress on climate.
Then 24 hours later, Russia, they signed on as a climate alliance, saying that they are going to get on board in 2060. But America is starting this right now. What is going to happen is we're giving a massive advantage to China, to India, to a lot of these other countries that are very rich in fossil fuels and energy. They have very cheap living standards in many locations. They're able to produce items and supply value at a much lower cost than America at this point. But when you look at where we're headed, you're going to see things very differently than you do right now. Here's a really good example of this. Look at the Climate Alliance. Right? The Climate Alliance is all the governors that are on board right now. So you have Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Guam, Massachusetts, Maryland, Maine, Louisiana, Illinois, Hawaii, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, you might not see Florida, you might not see Texas on this list, but you're going to see it in another list that I'm going to show you in this video because we're witnessing the entire country get restructured. Please hit the like button. Hit the like button. YouTube's going to share this content to educate more people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com by clicking the link in the description below this video. Schedule a free consultation. Take a look at this. So this came out 2 hours ago. Right, 2 hours ago, it says, just in, Putin approves new climate doctrine for Russia per decree, aiming for carbon neutrality no later than 2060. 2060, right? We have all these deadlines that are decades before them, right? So when you're looking at that, you're like, okay, well, the EU, they're following the same thing. They're going to quit Russian fossil fuels, right? All of these countries are getting rid of cheap energy. Same thing is happening here in America. So you have all of these countries moving away from this. You have to ask yourself, does this mean lower or higher cost for Americans? My bet is in the short term, at a minimum, we're going to see costs continue to rise. Everything's going to get more and more and more expensive. And so as the pain really starts to set in, we're going to start seeing people demand a solution. And the solution is going to be this transition. So we're going to witness something very, very interesting. So Putin's saying 2060. They have one area in Russia. They're saying, oh no, we're going to try to get this by 2025. We'll see how that goes, right? We'll see what that actually means and what that actually looks like, or if it's just headlines. But then when you see here, whitehouse.gov, you can see the URL right up top there. We have all these different goals and standards by 2030, right? And so some of these standards are really interesting, such as transportation, zero emission vehicles, to produce 3 billion gallons, right, to get sustainable aviation 2030. Even with buildings, achieving 100% clean power generation by 2035 will also eliminate upstream emissions from electricity, facilitate carbon-free and efficient electrification of appliances and equipment in buildings. You look up here, it says buildings and their energy consuming systems, electricity used if fossil fuels burned on site for heating air, heating water, cooking, have long lifelines. Therefore, the priority in this decade is to rapidly improve energy efficiency and increase the sales shares of clean and efficient electric appliances, including heat pumps, space conditioning, heat pump water heaters, electric and induction stoves, and electric clothing dryers. So what you're seeing here is they want to remove the fossil fuel aspect from the house and make everything smart, right? Smart electric, smart appliances, everything is going to be on the grid. And so when you're looking at this, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, is this like a goal? Is this a plan? Is this actually going to happen? Look at what's happening here. So right here, all countries target for zero carbon ready. This is 2030. And they go on to say the same exact thing. So it connects the dots perfectly. So on this website, then you look at CNBC, where they've already done in Ithaca, New York. Then you look at another website that I'm going to show you. Every single location, every powerful entity is all saying that this is what's going to happen. So I'm sharing this with you so you can see clearly, if you're a real estate investor, a business owner, an entrepreneur, an American, you want to know what's going to happen. Like, this is what's actually happening. They go on to say the building energy codes have been central tool for many countries for half a century to increase the energy efficiency and newly constructed buildings. Codes are increasingly expanding their remit from new construction to existing buildings, either requiring certain minimum energy efficiency measures at times of major innovations or establishing deadlines for efficiency performance upgrades to absence of retrofitting to increase building energy performance. So they say retrofitting, right? Here, implementing and enforcing building energy regulations and mandatory performance standards existing buildings, right? So this is retrofitting. They're going to be retrofitting the same thing. So when you look at this big retrofit situation that's going to be happening here, you have to ask yourself, what does that actually look like? Well, it looks like completely restructuring and changing the property. It's not just flipping out some appliances. I mean, in many cases, what they'll do is like what they're doing in New York City right now, something called Local Law 97, where they have an inspector go out to the property and they will look at the envelope of the property, the actual facade. They look for cracks in the stucco, cracks in, the bricks. They look for cracks to see where energy could be escaping. And if they deem that you need to remove the entire exterior of the property, you will have to do so, and you have to do so with the materials in which they suggest. Then you start to move your way inside. You look at all the appliances, you look at every bit of energy in that property and how it's being utilized, and you have to bring forward through with solar and renewable energy. And so what is this going to do? It's going to destroy some property owners, and it's going to present a lot of opportunity for people in solar industries and these different industries that are going to start to move into this space dramatically, because we haven't seen yet the pain of it. Like the actual pain is going to grow dramatically as energy bills and all these costs continue to rise, and these actually become laws, like where people will actually get fined and ticketed with liens on their properties and things like that. Sounds far-fetched, right? You might not agree just yet, but wait till the end of the video, you will. FDIC.gov, they even go on to talk about, do banks care about the environment, estimating the greenium and implications for bank lending. This is almost a year ago, right? Or a little over a year ago. And they discussing about how they need to change lending for the environment, right? It's all going to become more and more and more of this. Even right here in New Zealand, they're saying they're taxing cheeseburgers could help save the climate, right? New Zealand is the only country so far to take the leap on a sort of meat tax, placing a methane tax on farms that takes effect in 2025. It shouldn't be the last. It will not be the last. I promise that. It won't be the last. But if you look at like for example, the Climate Alliance is committed to quadrupling heat pump installations through the country, quadrupling it, right? And all these Climate Alliance is this right here. So this is Climate Alliance. So you kind of, if you live in one of these areas, just know that that's going to become something that is, it's not going to quadruple. It's going to probably 20x. Like people are going to have to do this over the next few years. But look at this. This shows exactly what's happening here. So Ithaca, New York becomes the first city to become 100% decarbonization of buildings, right? 100%. And so if you look at what they're saying here, they already have so what they're doing is they're actually getting funding from private equity. So private equity is actually investing in these properties. So Ithaca has already lined up $100 million in private financing over the summer to support the effort, and private equity partner Altruis, right? This private equity company, Altruis, right here, they are going, and you look at, these are the funders. These are the people that are going to be lending money on these people's properties. And what's ultimately going to happen? I mean, they look like really nice guys. They definitely want to help the environment, help the people. So what they're going to do is they're going to lien the funds on the property. They're going to be tapping. So you look at this. You can't even make this stuff up. So they say that it's roughly 1,000 residential units, and it's going to cost about $50 grand or so per house, right? $50 grand per house on average, and a budget of about $500 million in this city, and with a annual budget of about $85 million that sets Ithaca's ambitions apart from the model. They say here that many more cities are very likely going to follow, right? He was first elected as a city government at the age of 20, Cornell University. He goes on to say that local governments are in a good place to tackle building issues because many existing policy structures given them the majority of the oversight to regulate buildings. A big reason why cities have really emerged as leaders in decarbonization, particularly with buildings, and traditionally land use development has been more on the realm of state and local governments. They set building codes, they have the levers, says Elizabeth Beardsley, Senior Policy Counsel at U.S. Green Building Council. These cities are feeling the local impacts of climate change and is becoming more tangible and motivating. They are feeling the impacts knowing that they have the levers to use, right? It matches up exactly to a T right here. They have the levers. There are going to be energy performance upgrades. They have the levers to use. And they're going to be doing this with, and right here, building envelopes, energy producing, consumer systems, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So when people are like, oh, I love real estate, I love real estate. I love real estate investing. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of assets get completely repriced due to these new regulations, these new standards, these new changes. Insurance is going to play a very, very big role in this too. I own a property here in Florida, and I'm hearing of a lot of people around me that are, being forced to go through a lot of changes because they can't get insurance without all of these new, new roofs, new environmental standards that are being pushed on. So you start to look at a lot of these new changes. You have to ask yourself, is this a fluke or is this the new trend? Is this the new normal? I'm betting it's going to be the new normal. Even look at Amazon, right? So Amazon's following Microsoft, investing in big carbon capture. And when you look at what they're doing, it's really, really interesting. So they're using this vehicle right here. It's called the Climate Pledge, right? This is Amazon. And so Amazon, it says that we're the ultimate partner for decarbonization entrepreneurs. And so you look at some of these names, and they're partnering up with all of these different entities, right, that are all a part of this. And then you're like, okay, Rivian, Then you look at something really, really interesting that came out with Amazon right here, where they are going to essentially, all the Amazon sellers are going to have to start to comply with a lot of these new standards. So like scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, to where these sellers are going to have to start meeting certain standards to be able to sell on their platform. So it goes and says that the suppliers themselves will have the suppliers, and the suppliers will have to get their own independent decisions on how they're going to approach it. At the same time, companies have to address scope 3 emissions. Often they'll have to go to a supplier who can comply. But the retail giant also made it clear that there may be consequence for partners that don't measure up. We will continue to look for suppliers that help us achieve our decarbonization vision as we select partners and businesses for opportunities. So you have to ask yourself, you have Amazon doing this, right? You have everything that all these other companies that are all moving in this direction. Everything is about this decarbonization. Everything is about climate. So when you start to see all these changes, you have to ask yourself, which businesses are going to flourish over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and which ones are going to get greatly impacted? And how is your business going to be one in which might have a more difficult time, or is your business going to be one that, maybe has an easier time? Maybe you're stepping into a massive opportunity. So the reason I share this information is because I think real estate is going to change. I think a lot of businesses are about to change dramatically. And I think that, the more information that we have based on fact, the more well-informed decisions we can make about this. But what do you think? Where do you see all this going? Do you think we're walking into a very, very big change in America? Drop below, hit the like button, add me on IG. If you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com by clicking the link in the description below this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.